Good morning on this bright sunny Sunday morning. It's great to have you here. I have my cup of tea and a banana all set. A cup of tea and a banana. Now, the reason why I now have a banana instead of cookies is mainly because as a church, we're gonna do the Daniel fast, and we're doing a Daniel plan for about 40 days. It starts in I think a couple of weeks, but basically this week on social media you're going to see a lot of images of fruit because it's a very healthy diet, and it talks about how it will just help your life. It will help your faith. It will help your digestive system. And it will actually give you so much more energy and help you through. So I've been testing it out over the past 7 days now. And I can say without a fact that I have a lot more energy, and mentally I'm a lot more positive and also able to take on a lot more things at once. I have noticed those things. And it's these little things, fruit. And so, so we're doing a Daniel plan at the church in the next few weeks. If you want to know more, there is a link to the group below on our Facebook page. If you join that group, then you'll be able to find out more about our Daniel plan, and also get on our Facebook page, and it's all going to go everywhere. The social media team are on it. It's going to also be over Instagram as well, I believe. And we're also going to be looking at it at this time on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. So in the next couple of weeks, the week on Father's Day, I believe, we're going to start this Daniel plan. And this Coffee with Jason will be about how healthy eating, faith and food can help us. So that is a really important thing coming up. And as you can see, I do not have any cookies today, but a banana, so it's pretty good. Please do say hello. I'd love to hear from you. Please do comment, put a comment in so I can hear from you. Well, I ate my banana. And so please do post comments, say hello, and we'll get started in a minute. Now, if you're able to, while we're sitting here waiting for some people to come on, there's already quite a few people on already, which is amazing. But if you're able to share the link to the Facebook video, and we're also on YouTube as well. So if you're able to share the YouTube thing, and people can subscribe to us on YouTube, which is great. So we're on Facebook and YouTube, and both links are going across the screen at the bottom now. And I wanted to also talk about, just quickly, the food bank and what great work it's been doing this week. So I believe that we've seen like another 100 people this week. And we've got a lot of food coming in, and the volunteers are working really hard. And it's been great, actually. We've achieved a lot this week and made a lot of people happy. And that's great. And I believe you guys have been seeing, hi all, hi Deborah, hi Anne. I think that's Hannah. Morning, Hannah. So basically, you guys have been seeing a lot of our Facebook thankful posts, and so many people have been donating things like tins, food, and that's really good, and it's great, and it really helps us out. But also where we are really, really struggling is in finances. We really need finances to help us keep going. And there's also a link being shared on our Facebook page to donate, but there is also this link as well. Look at me with the links this morning. Boom, 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 boom. Get them in. If you're able to donate to the food bank and the work of the church, please do follow recchurch.co.uk/donate. And that will help to keep the food bank going. We really are trying to raise quite a lot of money because we want to make a bigger impact. We want to not just do food, we want to do a lot more other things as well. We've got a lot in the pipeline that we want to move forward and help as many people as possible. So if you're able to donate, please do. Anyway, on with today's talk. Thank you for dropping by. Thanks for coming in. It's been great to have you. And I'm just going to now get on with today's talk. So this week, I believe that you would have all noticed, I've noticed it, the news and how in the news, there's this Black Lives Matter campaign, but also there are some other people out there and they've been tearing down statues. This statue here is a statue of a person many years ago. I forgot to write down the name. But supposedly he was a slave trader as well. I did also read, though, both sides of the story. This guy did a lot of charity work as well. But anyway, I'm asking the question, look, why are we tearing down statues? Because yesterday there was also news that there was a lot of people in London defending statues, and they were standing outside the Winston Churchill statue, making sure people didn't pull it down. So why are we tearing down statues? Now, is it because people are angry? I do believe they want change. Some have started tearing down statues, but some have also been attacking police. Some have simply been talking with the police about how they feel. There are two sides of every story, guys. Look, if you're seeing stuff in the news, please do look it up, because sometimes the news can be a bit biased and it's only showing one aspect, because there are a lot of people out there peacefully protesting. And that's important to remember, that there's a very few number of people that are not peacefully protesting, but there are people that are peacefully protesting. So please do look at a broader range of news. But essentially, it's because the people, they wish to be heard. They wish to have their issues addressed. And they are essentially saying, now is a time for change. By tearing down statues, they are asking for change, to be recognized, somewhat to be equal. It's amazing what a statue can signify when it is standing, but also when it's been brought down. I remember when the statue of Saddam Hussein was brought down many years ago. The people in Afghanistan, they had a massive party. Now, this was because they saw this as a time of change, as a time of new, and as a time of hope. No more were they to be oppressed. No more were they to be governed by this regime. And no more were they to not have any freedom. When that statue came down, it gave the Afghanistan people hope. And it gave them hope that actually there is something new coming, and it is going to be better. So this got me thinking about this week's story of hope. You see, there was a time in the Roman Empire when Jews were told to leave Rome. It was in AD 54 that Emperor Claudius asked the Jews to leave Rome. This was because there was upset around the Jewish community between the Jews and the Christian Jews. One thing Romans didn't like in any of their cities was unrest. Now, these two people groups were arguing quite publicly over a period of time, sometimes in the streets, and essentially it was all about the cause of Jesus. Eventually, Emperor Claudius had had enough. He commanded all Jews to leave Rome, that either whether they were Christian or not Christian. So this meant that within the Christian church, the Jews that were Christian, that were leaders in that church, had to give up their position to the people and leave. And they had to give up their position to a people group called the Gentiles. Now, this meant, what Gentiles meant is people that were not Jewish, people that had no Jewish background whatsoever. So people like you and I. I'm not Jewish. I haven't grown up in a Jewish family. So we would be classed in the Bible, biblical times, as Gentiles. So Gentiles were led to lead the church, and in Rome, and they were there for a very long period of time. It was until Emperor Claudius died that Emperor Nero came back into power. And in his 2 first years as Emperor of Rome, he then invited the Jews back into Rome. So the Jews came back in their hundreds, and with their ways and with their statues and their way of life. They marched back into church, pretty much demanding that the church go back to how it was when they were leading it. Yet a lot had changed. The culture had changed in Rome from one time to this time. And the Jews found it hard because once Jews were people of power and influence within Rome, but now they were no longer those things. People had stepped into those positions whilst the Jewish people had been out of Rome. And this is why Paul writes his famous letter to the Roman church. You can find it in the book of the Bible, in the New Testament, and it's called Romans. It's his famous letter to the Roman church. Now, Paul actually didn't make this church. He didn't produce it, nor did he ever lead it. But Paul was very influential in the church planting process. And even he was very influential in the church sphere, in that circle. So this is why Paul writes to his famous letter to the Roman church. He writes and states that the old Jewish ways have gone. Obeying the 10 Commandments, being a good person, it's all gone. These statues from the Jewish faith are completely gone. They have been torn down. Personally, I still don't understand why in even today's society, in some churches, they still put the 10 Commandments up on the wall. I also don't understand why some of the churches give a perception that being a good person will be okay and you will be able to go to heaven. Because this is essentially what the Jews believed in. And it's old and it's completely gone. You see, those statues were torn down long ago in Paul's letter. So why have we decided as a modern day church to still highlight those two statues, being a good person and following the 10 Commandments? Because it has been shown time and time again that mankind has not been able to do both of those things. We're seeing this all over the news currently, how we as a race of people are very much just not very good. You know, we're violent. We're ethically wrong. There's things going on in this world that, you know, poverty exists and it's so huge. And it's being ignored. It's being more ignored than the Black Lives Matter campaign. Poverty is such a huge thing. Now, if we were able to follow the 10 Commandments and be good people, then none of these things would exist. Now, Paul tore these statues down with 2 words in his letter. But now. But now. Now, but now are crucial words in the Bible. Whenever God says but now, it means that everything before it is torn down. And now there is something new that will follow. Like when Saddam Hussein's statue went down in Afghanistan, it was a very big but now situation. You see, in another book in the Bible, in Luke, in chapter 24, he actually writes about the but. And the but now. And the but comes right after the description of Jesus's burial in Luke 23. But on the first day of the week. Luke starts the chapter of 24. Now, all English teachers would be having a field day right now. And they would say, this is completely grammatically wrong. You can't start a sentence or even a story with but on the first day of the week. But Luke does that, and he does that significantly to show that something new was about to happen, that there was a resurrection about to happen. And this signifies a new thing that was about to come, and the resurrection of Jesus and the hope of Jesus from the dead. There is also another point in the Bible in Ephesians 2:3-5. And it says this, all of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. Do you notice the but in Ephesians? You see, Paul, this is another letter of Paul's. Paul writes this first part of the letter and says how we are actually shortfalling of each other, how we shortfall through life, how we are not ethical, how we are not able to love one another, how we have bad thoughts and desires. And yet, the but here, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy. Now, mercy simply means love and grace. And he makes us alive with Christ. So when Luke was talking about the resurrection, it's very significant in Luke 24, because we become alive with the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Even when we are completely dead in our hearts and dead in our ways, and we're on social media trying to give a perception of beauty, of greatness, of all our life is together, of taking great pictures and making those 3-second shutters. Even when we are dead in those ways, it is by grace, by love, that we have all been saved. You see the importance of but now. The importance of but. This is now why the but is important. You see, if God is our creator and our judge, then we don't stand a chance on our own works and our own good deeds. Because the but signifies change. It signifies a new thing. It signifies hope. So I want to ask you today, what is it in your life that you need to say but now to? Maybe you've been told all your life that you are no good. Maybe the friends or family you have talked down to you. Maybe the partner you have been with is actually just no good for you. Maybe you have been chasing those gym gains, but realizing that you still feel empty inside and not right. Maybe you've been chasing the career ladder, but realizing that you still feel unfulfilled. Let me tell you, there are statues in your life today that need pulling down with these 2 words, but now. Because but now gives us a new hope. To see, Paul goes on to say this to the Romans: we are made right before God through faith in Jesus. The through faith is the new now. You see, the through faith is the coming down of the statue. It was exactly like when they brought down the statue of Saddam Hussein, and that was the new now. It's the through faith in Jesus is the change. There is nothing we now have to do apart from have faith through Jesus. This is something the Jews did not really come to terms with, yet the Gentiles understood it because they didn't have the Jewish background and could preach the good news to all and accept it straight away. This is when Paul now steps in to help them and to help us all to tear down these statues. It is not that you have kept the commandments. It is not that you've been a good person and followed your conscience. It's not that you've been going to the gym 3 times a week. It's not that you have made it in your career. It's not that you've turned over a new leaf. No, it's not any of those things that you do in your own strength. It's because of belief in Jesus that brings us hope. It's because of faith in Jesus that brings us salvation, that brings us refuge in these times, that brings us change in these times. It brings us justice in these times. It's being right with God through Jesus that brings us into our best life. You see, when you have a friend you may have ignored or a family member you haven't got on with, one day you kind of come to a point that you want to get right with that person. It's normally to obey your conscience or actually just to make you feel better. So what do you do when you visit this friend? You sit down and you begin to talk. You go through the past of what happened. But there comes a point in the climax of the conversation where either of you have to term a word and exchange a word, and it's sorry. You have to give an exchange of sorry. Now, sorry as a word has great weight to it. It says that you're sorry for everything that you've done to that person, or not done in some cases. And sometimes this happens with our relationships with our partners or our spouses. If you've been with someone for a long period of time, you would have had this sort of conversation. You might have had a falling out, but eventually you end up sitting down and having this conversation. And either one of you or both of you have to exchange that word sorry. And this is what it is meant to get right with God. This is how you come to have faith in Jesus. You have to sit down and have that conversation with the Father. Yet you do that through Jesus. You simply say to Jesus, I'm sorry for hurting you, Father, for ignoring him and not taking any notice of his ways. I'm sorry for just doing life on my own and trying to live my best life. But this all requires a couple of things. To have faith through Jesus, to have faith in Jesus, you have to have a realization that one, he exists. That you have to have faith for. And two, he is real. All this requires faith before being able to sit down and get right with God. So this week's message of hope is a simple one. Do away with the old statues in your life. Do away with trying to do it in your own strength. Do away with thinking that the Christian lifestyle is about the 10 commandments and being a good person. It's far from the truth and it's not real. Don't listen to those preachers or church leaders that try to tell you otherwise. The Christian lifestyle is about faith in Jesus. There is hope for us all because of Jesus. There is hope and change for us all because of Jesus. You see, the term Gentiles meant anyone. That means anyone can come to the cross of Jesus. Anyone can find hope. Anyone can find love. Anyone can stand in front of God and be right in his eyes. That means anyone, no matter who you are, race, background, whatever. It means anyone. Anyone can come and have faith through Jesus because we are all equal in the eyes of God. So the thing you need to walk away with today is having faith in Jesus. And if you want to know more about that or how to do that, why not join our groups? Come along to the 4 p.m. Zoom on a Sunday. Come and get plugged into our community. Or why not simply drop me an email, jasoncontent@recchurch.co.uk. And I'll put that in the comments in a minute. But I just want you to walk away with this one thing. If there's anything you walk away with this week, as this week's message of hope is to have faith in Jesus. When the world is falling apart and it looks absolutely crazy around you, now is the time to stand up and say, I'm going to have faith in Jesus. Now is the time to stand up and ask for change for your own life. It's no good campaigning for others if your life is not right. It's no good campaigning, shouting to your lungs for others if your own life is not right. Because when all's said and done, when you come home and you sit on the side of your bed at night, and if your life is not right, then that's just not a good way of living. You're just going to end up being unhappy. You're going to end up with mental issues. So have faith in Jesus. Step out. Have faith in him, because it's when you have faith in him. Sometimes you don't even need to leave your house and go and campaign. You can pray for God's justice to be done. All over the Bible, it talks about justice. It talks about how God comes through and delivers his justice. And that is not in violence. That is not people beating up other people. God comes through in a peaceful way. His ways are always loving and peaceful. And the only way that we can really, really, really ask for change is having faith in Jesus, because Jesus has a direct connection to the Father. And like it or not, the Father made the heavens and the earth. He made you and I. He breathed breath into our lungs. Scientists still today cannot understand how a baby is actually formed in the mother's womb. Yet in the Bible, it talks about time and time again how I formed you in the womb, how I know your name, how your name is on the palm of my hand. God says that about you. He says that about you and I. So it's no good leaving your house, going for violence, if you do not have faith in Jesus. Because it's when you have faith in Jesus that you become loving, that you become graceful. Your love is actually Jesus's love working through you. This is why the 10 Commandments do not work as an individual to follow them all on your own strength. This is why it should never be up in church anymore. Because Paul said, way then, but now. He tore down those statues to remind us that you can't do this on your own. It is only with faith in Jesus that these things can be done. So stop going around saying to people that I am a good person, that I am okay, because salvation is not based on whether you're a good person or not. You can be a bad person. You can have committed murder, but yet you can lay on your deathbed. And at that moment, just before you go, you could hear a gospel message. And if you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, well, then you are saved and you are graced. And that is the gospel right there. That no matter who you are, all are loved by God. All are equal in the eyes of God. Doesn't matter what you do. You could be a very good person. You could be a very bad person. If your faith is in Jesus, you're going to go to heaven. You're able to live your life in him. And that's why I chose this week's message of hope. When I saw the world going into absolute turmoil, our country is starting to go into turmoil. In the news, it's like the newspapers are having a field day. There's so much to report on now. And people are falling out with other people. This is why this is important. To have faith. Walk with this message of hope on your hearts. And this is what I leave you with this week. To have faith in Jesus. Now, as promised, I'm going to put my message, my email in here. Because if you want to know more at all about church, about Jesus, about anything, just email me. My door is always open. And basically, yeah, or you can join our group. So if you can join our group here, look, and you can even follow along with us. Why not come along at 4 o'clock on Zoom? Why not do that? Why not come in and come to our Zoom meeting? Be part of our community. We want more and more people to become part of our community, because everybody in our church, like, we love each other. We do. We're like a family. And yeah, there's not loads of us. There's about 20 of us, but we all love each other. We're all for each other. And it's important at the time of where you see great destruction. and you see all this stuff going on in the news. It's important to have a loving family around you, having loving people around you. So yeah, why not come along to our Zoom meetings at 4 o'clock on a Sunday? Or if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But why not join our Facebook page? Why not join the Facebook group? Do something, because this world is falling apart, and eventually, like, you're going to come to a point where it's going to affect you mentally. Here, look, I'm going to put the Zoom ID into the comments. If you want to come along at 4 o'clock today, you're more than welcome. This is the thing. When Jesus operates in your life, you just show love, and that's what happens. Thanks, Deborah. Have a nice day. Thanks, John. Morning, Alan. Morning, Greg. How are you doing? So yeah, that's basically the climax of my message this week. Now, post in the comments if you want to know more. Let's chat. Let's have a conversation. It's great. Nice sunny day today. Yeah. Thanks for all dropping by. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. Greg, what? Join our group or come along at 4 o'clock. Yeah, thanks for all coming along. It's been a pleasure to talk to you all this morning. And thanks for listening. I hope I keep your interest. Thanks. So that kind of, yeah, thanks, Greg. Take down the ID. I've put the ID down. Thanks, Anne. Hey, Anne, why don't you come along at 4 o'clock? You've been on here before. You've spoken to us before. Yeah, thanks for popping by. It'd be great to have you, Anne. Take down the Zoom ID. If you got it, I've put it in the comments. So what did people think? Hey, look, what did you think about that? I want to know, honestly, that whole thing, you know, what do you think? What did you think about the message that I shared? I'd love to know. Greg said it was insightful and it helped him. Did it help anybody else? Oh, whenever you do talking, it drains your mouth. It makes your throat really dry. And a lot of the passion comes out. Thanks, Greg. Thanks. Hey, Greg, are you on our Facebook page? Be great to have you. Wow, Deborah, that's real. That's real. To admit that to yourself, that's amazing. Well, look, let's have a conversation. Let's unpack that. You know, not now. We can do that at 4 o'clock or, you know, whenever, in your own time, maybe. You know, it takes time to unpack those statues. Nice, yeah, and yeah, do that. It'd be actually great to have you. Lovely, John. Why don't you join Zoom? It'd be great to have you. Yeah, it is such a beautiful day. I went out yesterday, actually. Me and Sarah, we went out to Shoebury, and then went. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for joining. Went out to Shoebury, and then we did a weekly shopping in Shoebury Asda. It's actually the quietest Asda Food is getting a bit on the expensive side, though. I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel like the prices of food has gone up. But yeah, has anybody else struggled with that? Like, anybody else noticed the prices of? See you later, Greg. Anybody else noticed the price of food has gone up? Food seemed quite like reasonable price before, but now you go to Asda and we're spending like over £100 a week, whereas before I think we're spending like about £60, something like that. I don't know, but it's gone up. Yeah, our diet's changed though a bit, quite a lot. But yeah, I've noticed food prices have gone up. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to head off. But have a nice Sunday. Enjoy the sun. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll speak to you all next week, or join us later on at 4 o'clock on Zoom. Lovely to see you. Have a good day.